Hey guys, it's Kyle. I wanted to make a short video here. I've been getting a lot of questions about uh, some of my design styles and things like that. So I just wanted to make a quick video here, just kind of answer some of those questions and also show you guys just what I think the future of web design looks like, and a lot about contemporary web design. So first, I'm going to go ahead and scroll the page here, show you guys what it looks like. And you guys can even go to the URL up here and check it out for yourselves. So let's get started here. So it's a parallax scroll. It's a long scroll landing page with parallax strips in it. And you can see I've used really high resolution images here, really important. And also the font and typography is extremely important as well. So we're going to get into that um, after I go through all these sections for you guys here. So photography, we're going to start with that. Like I say here, I think it's the future of web design. Um, Really, with Wix's new ADI technology that they're getting ready to launch, and some other things, photography is just really paramount. I spend 70% of my time building a website. I spend looking at photographs, just trying to find the perfect one. So um, it's really important, guys. But with photography, make sure that you get permission to use it. Um, Now, if you can go to iStock Photography and places like that and find good photos, but I use other methods. I contact photographers myself. I really make it important to get great photography. So that's one of my biggest things. And then really important, tell a story with your images. Pretty simple. It's actually not. I mean, you could get into it and consider the psychology of your users and things like that. But that's a video for another time. So. Blur is my next thing. It's one of my That's one of my biggest design tactics, I guess you could say. And essentially, what blur is it's where you have I've got it written down here, offset. Blur with offset. Blur with offset is essentially where the background is blurry, and then the foreground has a high resolution focal point that's offset to the right or to the left. And what that allows you to do is place text to the side of your focal point. Now you have to have the blurry background, otherwise it's going to create a lot of noise in the background, and you're really not going to be able to read your font very well. I see a lot of companies, web development companies, making websites and charging $10,000 for them. But then I see simple things like them not using Blur, or their designers don't understand it, or whatever the case may be. But Blur is really important, guys. Not a lot of people doing it, but it's really important. And uh, I talk about reducing elements here with Blur and offset. You don't need all the text box elements or um, you know all those things to kind of make a website work. You're using the image to make it work. And the biggest benefit of Blur is that it makes your text look really crisp. So that's kind of what we see up here, just a really crisp looking font. That's because of Blur. The next thing we're going to get into is a big one, actually, is resolution. So here for resolution, I put 1920 by 1080p, which is really important. Um, I found a Wix article here that says your background image size should be at least 1250 by 800 pixels. Um, I'm telling you guys now that's not correct. 1920 by 1080p and less, that is 70% of your users. So 70% of your users, they're using 1920 by 1080p. Only 11%, 11.3%, and actually, it's 6.3% of users are using the dimensions that they pointed out here, 1250 by 800. So you really don't want to do that. That's a very small percentage of your users, and your images will look distorted. So if anything, the minimum should be 1920 by 1080p, and then higher resolutions are going to be about 30%. Wix does have a recommended background image size now of 3,000 by 3,000 pixels. I'm not sure what the confusion was. Somebody on the blog didn't get the memo, but anyways, back to it. 1920 by 1080p. I put width matters here, guys, because width is the most important thing here. If you want to cut down on load speeds, you can crop the height and just really have the width focus in on your focal point. Like, for instance, this section that I'm highlighting here, you could cut off the head and the beak here and have an eye, and you get the point. So width is what matters. Macro. So macro is my biggest secret, guys. I'm letting you in on. It's just so awesome. So macro photography, if you're not familiar, it's close-up photography. And if you haven't noticed, all my images are really close up. And what that does is it creates the illusion like your users are in the website. And it's just really cool. It allows you to really, hone in on focal points and reduce noise and things like that we talked about with blur. It's just really awesome, guys. Macro photography, that's all the photos that I use. They use macro or some form of close-up photography. So huge. It's just really awesome. So if you guys take anything away from this video, it would definitely be macro photography. Colors, like I say here, keep it minimal, reduce the noise, and make it flow. Colors, they really should complement the brand in some way, shape, or form, and they should really flow throughout the website. Not a lot of colors. It helps reduce the noise, and it's pretty simple, pretty cut and dry. But my website wouldn't look so clean if my strips didn't make minimal use of color. I think my chameleon here is an exception, but I think it was a really good representation of blur with offset, so I went with it anyways. But yeah, guys, a basic breakdown is just blur, offset, high resolution, and macro. And the combination of those guys, it really helps. And just to go over one more time, noise, guys, in case you don't know what it is. If these leaves in the background here weren't blurred out, this image would be really noisy. You wouldn't be able to read the text, and if none of these images were blurred, it wouldn't have that smooth, that nice, clean, smooth look like we've got now. And the same goes for solid color backgrounds. It just really help get a clean, smooth look. So anyways, guys, I guess my only last thing would be typography and font. So typography is going to be positioning of your text, and font is going to be the type of font that you've used. I really only use Avenir, Proxima Nova, and Futura fonts. I also use the Futura Light and Avenir Light, which is what I used on this site. And I use those to really just get that clean, crisp look, that modern look. I see a lot of people using some really old fonts, and they use 5 or 6 different fonts on their website. Guys, you really need to start using this font and really consider your typography. If you can tell over here by how many rulers I use, I really consider typography in the positioning of my content. So anyways, guys, that's modern web design. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really gave you guys some of my biggest secrets. And if you guys want to check it out for yourselves, like I said, just go up here to the URL. I'll leave a link to it in the comment boxes below. And if you take anything away from this, guys, it's going to be macro here. So I'll answer any questions you guys have, and I'll see you around.